The Tale of the Watermelon. Once upon a time there was a young man named Mai Ntiem. He was from a country somewhere in the southern sea, sold into slavery. One day, he was taken by merchants to sell him. Mai Ntiem learned to speak Vietnamese very quickly. He remembers many things, knows many common-sense things, and is very talented. The king loved him more and more day by day, never leaving him. At the age of 35, he became a mandarin and had a private house near the king's palace. Mai's wife, the king's adopted daughter, gave birth to a 5-year-old son. Mai has enough people to serve her, and there is no shortage of delicious things in the house. Although his power was not very great, he was feared and admired by everyone. Many people still frequent the bridge next door. But seeing that Mai has a high position, it is not uncommon for people to feel jealous. One day, at a party for guests, while everyone was constantly praising her, Mai Ntiem humbly told them, "Nothing. Everything in this house is my predecessor." Mai spoke very naturally. Because his country's religion says that current happiness and suffering are the result of good or bad behavior in previous lives. But among the people attending the banquet were several officials close to the king, who had hated him for a long time. Grabbing what they thought was an arrogant statement, they hurried back to tell the king. King Hung heard that he was extremely angry. The king roared, "Wow! You liar! Today he says that, tomorrow he will say such disrespectful words. The slave army is treacherous. Lock him up for me." That afternoon, Mai was captured and thrown into a dungeon. Only then did he understand that he had said something wrong. Mai told herself, "If from now on I will be damned, it will be because I behaved incorrectly in my previous life." Meanwhile, at court, the mandarins met to discuss Mai's trial. Many people suggested execution. Someone suggested cutting off the heel. But the words of an old mandarin caught Hung Vong's attention. He is rightly sentenced to death. But before he dies, I should make him realize deeply that his wealth is due to His Majesty's grace and not from any predecessor. I heard there is an island outside Na Sun's gate. Send him out there with a month or two's salary so he can sit and reflect on his predecessor before he dies. King Hung nodded in approval. But after giving the order, the king also instructed, "Give him enough salary to last one season, do you hear?" On the day of exile, although everyone tried to dissuade him, Mai Ntiem's wife still insisted on following her husband to the island. She carried her son with her. Everyone thought it was crazy. As for her, she believed in her husband's words. Heaven gave birth to elephants, heaven gave birth to grass. Don't worry. But when she stepped onto the deserted sandy beach, the young woman couldn't help but feel sorry for herself, sobbing into her husband's shoulder. "We'll just die here." Mai hugged her child and told her wife, "God always has eyes. Just get excited. Don't worry." Over the first month, the couple's life was temporarily stable. The house is hidden in a hole in the rock that has been covered with rattan to protect it from wind and wind. There are streams for drinking water. Without salt, there would be sea water. But what about prolonging life? The couple looked at the empty bag of rice. If we get a handful of seeds, we won't have to worry about anything. Quote, "Suddenly, one day a large flock of birds flew from the west and landed black on a sandy beach. Then they flew in front of the couple, screaming loudly, dropping 5 or 6 seeds. Not long after, from those seeds a type of creeping vine grew, spreading green throughout the beach. Wherever the vine goes, young green fruits will sprout. A little while later, the couple went out to look and saw that the fruit had grown like crazy, with smooth green skin and a round size as large as a human head. Apricot peeled a fruit, opened it and saw reddish-pink flesh and black seeds. Husband and wife and children taste the sweet and pure taste. The more you eat, the cooler your intestines become. Mai exclaimed, "Oh! This is a strange melon, never seen before. Let's call it Western melon, because this melon was brought to us by birds from the west, from the mainland. God has sustained us." From that day on, the couple tried to grow more melons. They planned to eat melon instead of rice to avoid having to use the rice that was almost exhausted. One day Mai and her husband encountered a fishing boat straying to the island. After helping them fix their sails to return to the mainland, Mai also gave them some melons to take home for everyone to taste. Mai told them to bring rice and exchange it for melons. Just a few days ago, the first boat arrived and anchored at the wharf, bringing up quite a lot of rice for the couple. The two sides made a wish. One side received the rice and the other side put the melons on the boat. From then on, their meals were different. Sitting next to the pot of steaming white rice, Mai's wife hugged her child and muttered, "God really feeds us." From that day on, the couple planted many more melons. As a result, there were merchant ships and fishing boats that flocked to the islands to bring rice, clothes, chickens and pigs, knives and hammers, and even other seeds, in exchange for melons. The people in the boat said to Mai, "Truly, there has never been such a precious melon since ancient times. In our area, everyone wishes to taste a piece of this watermelon. No matter how much rice they have to exchange, they will not regret it." At that time, people competed to buy melons to get seeds, so within a few years the melon varieties spread everywhere. The name of Mai Ntiem and his wife spread far and wide. People call Sun, father of the Western melon. Another story is that King Hung one day scolded the mandarin for allowing the workers to build a house because of his ignorance. The king blurted out and lamented, "If only Mai Ntiem were there, it wouldn't be so bad." That day the king kept talking about him. Twice the king asked Lac Marquis what Mai was doing and where she was now. Lac Marquis replied boldly, "He's probably no longer there." But the king did not believe it. The king immediately sent another slave to give him food and a boat to go to Ai to find Mai Ntiem. A month later, he brought back a boat full of melons to the king and said, "This is a gift from Mr. and Mrs. Mai to your majesty." He told the king clearly about the difficult days and the current situation of Mai and her husband. Then he continued, "Now Mr. and Mrs. Mai have a pretty nice house out there, with more than 10 servants, a melon field, rice fields and a lot of pigs and chickens." The more King Hung heard, the more shocked he became. Fever. The king clicked his tongue and said to the mandarins who had denounced Mai one day, he said it was his predecessor, which is true. The king then sent a group of soldiers to pick up the couple and let Mai return. Old position. The king gave him 2 concubines to comfort him. Now the island is also called Ntiem Beach. The successors to Mai and her husband's work on the island still have a large lineage. They established a village called Mai N Village. In Mai's old house, they built a temple to worship him and his wife. People call it, the ancestors of Western melons, or. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.